Welcome to the first episode of a new Bash programming series. In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to display text in the console and the fundamentals of using variables. Before we begin, make sure to have an environment that supports Bash. I'm going to use the Windows subsystem for Linux with an Ubuntu distro installed. Let's begin by creating a file that will store our scripts. Well, to do that, you can use the touch command. First, we have to start with a shebang. This tells the program loader which shell to use. I'm going to talk about this more in detail in the future episodes. So, the first command that we will talk about is echo. For now, let's say that it's used for displaying text on the screen. Let's start with a hello world. Now, to run our script, let's use /script.sh. And I get permission denied. Well, to fix this, because you may also have this issue, use hmod +x script.sh. And now it's working. Okay, so echo automatically uses the new line character at the end when displaying text. If we want to disable that, we can use the -n argument. If I run the script again, you can see that this hello world is in the same line as my command line input. Well, okay, so let's add the escaped new line character at the end and see what happens. Well, echo by default does not render this properly. To enable this, we can also pass the -e parameter. Now it works. You can also add some tabs, for example. Okay, nice. Well, when using the echo, we don't really have to surround our text with those quotation marks, because this still will work, but it's recommended, because sometimes in other commands, the second word may be interpreted as another command. Okay, but how do I display this character using echo? Well, we can just escape it, just like this. Okay, let's move to variables. Variables in Bash are untyped, so they can hold any kind of data. Okay, so for example, let's create a few variables. I tried to create a variable that will hold the name of a certain video game character, but I get Stormcloaked command not found. That's why it's recommended to surround this in quotes. Now it's working. Okay, let's add a few more variables. Well, let's try to echo those variables on the screen. Well, if I just try that, it won't work. To render it properly, use the $sign before. Now it works. Let's display the rest of the variables. Okay, let's run our script. Okay, so after running our script, you can see that most of the variables were displayed properly, except for the money variable. Well, because I would like to use the $sign, but it renders like 047 money1. That's not what we want. We have to escape the $character if you want to display it using echo. Okay, now it works. Okay, I'm going to comment it out. We can see when we run our script that those columns are not formatted properly. And I'm going to introduce one more command in this episode, which is the print command. And it basically stands for formatted print. Okay, but first, let's maybe save those columns into a variable. I'm going to call that template. Now, if we want to display a string using printf, we have to use the %s. Race will also be a string. Money is a number. So we have to use the D option. Well, strength is going to be a float. And the magica will also be a number. And we also have to end this with a new line character. Now we can do something like this. We can print the template. And now we have to populate those arguments. Well, but we have a small problem because we can see that it only displays name and nothing else. To fix that, we have to quote this variable because it interpreted everything here as arguments, and we don't really want it. Let's try again. Well, and we encountered yet another problem because the space here separates the words, and it thinks that this variable here goes here. So to fix that, it's best to surround the string variables with quotes. Okay, nice. So now we can copy this and just replace the ones here with twos. But the columns are still not the same width. To fix this, we can set the width of a string after the percentage symbol. So let's maybe make that 25, that should be enough. We see now that the first column is the same. Let's also fix the rest. Alright, so it works. But I would like, for example, the money amount here to be aligned to the left. If we add the minus sign at the beginning, it is going to automatically be aligned to the left here. Let's also change the amount of digits from 10 to maybe 8. Okay, if you would like to use the zeros instead of aligning the number to the left, you could use something like this. Let's also maybe add a space here. Now if I set the money 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see that it works just fine. Well, but if it's larger, then the columns will break again. So in my experience, it's just the best to set the max possible width that we expect for the number here. Okay, let's also say that I would like to only have 2 places of precision. To do that, we can use .2f. And it works. But there's a small problem. If I set the strength to be bigger than here, it still breaks. So we have to set the number of characters at the beginning here. And that is including the dot. So if I set this to 5, it works properly. Okay, and there's one last thing that I would like to talk about, and that is the difference between the double quotes and single quotes. So let's maybe go back to the previous example using the echo. If I surround this with single quotation marks, and the variables here are not evaluated, and we just get $name1. So just use this if you don't want to reference any variables. Okay, but the problem here is that the escape character does not work with single quotes. And that can be a bit troublesome. So if you want to display something like, hello, I'm coding in Bash without any errors, we have to do a bit of tricks there. First, surround the single quote with two single quotes, and then we can escape it. And now it works. Okay, so that would be it for this episode. In the next one, we'll talk about arithmetic operations as well as shell expansions. So stay tuned and thanks for watching. Goodbye.